4DSales from Tulsa. Brian Carpenter will be presenting for us, and he's got a great presentation from what it looks like set up. So without further ado, welcome Brian Carpenter.
Well, thank you all for letting a couple of Oklahoma boys come over and share with you our journey. Before I get started, I do want to make one comment on the Passport program. And in fact, there was, I believe it was your application that I heard about to teach kids how to play a piano. It's really been remarkable. This is our 6th city. And in each one of the presentations we give, we've gotten more than we've given. Meaning the types of advice that we've got, the type of questions that were asked, well, why'd you do this, or how did this work? And that meant a lot to us, and it's really helped us kind of frame some of the things that we do. So any of you who have presented here before, I would really encourage you to take a look at one of the other locations. You're very warmly embraced, and it's a terrific community that. With that, I'd like to talk with you about our company and our product, 4DSales. What you see on the screen right now is actually the application, and we're going to hit on the icon up at the top, a category called 1 million, and a carousel will jump up that is filled with content. And I want to walk you through a series of topics. The very first thing that I wanted to talk about is first, what is 4DSales? It's an iPad or Windows 8 tablet application that is designed to amplify the ability of a salesperson when they are in a sales call. And if you go back to, oh, thank you. I'll just turn this off. If you go back to when Mike and I and our other partner Doug started our business career back in 1983, this is what technology looked like at that time. This was the IBM PC, Apple's first product. This is a $5,000 brick cell phone. And this is actually my favorite, which is, they call it prehistoric Google, where you're standing in front of a card catalog in a library. But also in 1983, we all began our career at the IBM Corporation, and IBM at that time was considered the top company in the world as far as most respected, greatest training, you know, all of the things that are associated with that arbitrary distinction. But they taught us, as we came out of school, we then went to school for a year to learn the IBM way. And a lot of it had to do with how do you sell, how do you consultatively sell. And these were the technologies that we had at our disposal in 1983. You had your traditional pamphlet. We had these things called foils or overheads. They were just these clear pieces of plastic that you then put on an overhead projector. If you are really a hot shot, you got these 35 millimeter carousels, and if you ever had a best friend, it was this little locking ring right here, because if that ever came undone and your slides went everywhere, it was a train wreck. Or locked up. And we were taught how to sell visually from a board. And this is what technology looked like in 1983. Well, it hasn't changed a whole lot. This is Elon Musk, the chairman of Tesla, at the 2014 shareholder meeting, and we get so tickled about his PowerPoint presentation. This Tesla is one of the most advanced companies in the world, and he's presenting in a way not much different than the way we were taught to present in 1983. So if you take a look at this, at where we have come, sales calls basically have not changed much in 30 years. It's still a dissemination of information down to a client. And in fact, McKinsey & Company earlier this year talked about across industry, across parts of the world, what are the most important touch points in a business-to-business buying experience, depending upon the stage of where they are, whether you're in consideration all the way up to purchase and loyalty. And the number one factor across industry, across geographic region, was a sales rep. The sales rep had the greatest impact on the buying decisions. In fact, the CMO Council said that 85% of a customer's buying decision is based on that direct interaction between a sales rep and the customer. So the fundamental problem that we were there to solve is how are we going to use technology to amplify that salesperson's ability when they are on a call. I want to show you just a brief representation of this. There's a company called the Intermec Corporation. This is actually their corporate presentation, their PowerPoint presentation. And if we go to the very first slide that they have, it's that traditional positioning statement. It's a workflow performance company that does this and does that. This doesn't tell at all what they do. You know what they do? They make the most rugged handheld devices you can imagine. You'll see them when you're checking in a car. You'll see them at warehouses. They are rugged handheld devices. Well, does this tell that? Would this video tell that? Or my favorite is the next video, which is they're taking a sander to it. Well, we process things visually. Or what if I wanted to get out to an internet site? And see, this is actually how you get out to their deployment environments. And so what we did is we just touched on that, and you jumped out to a internet site. So what 4DSales does is it takes all of that content, irregardless of source, and puts it together as one, and allows your sales reps to carry with them at all times, untethered, any possible piece of information that you could ever imagine. And the reason for that is this. Why is that so important? Number one, buyers today have far less time or willingness to want to spend time with you as a salesperson. The old adage of what we were taught of try to get that next meeting doesn't happen anymore. It's buyers expect for you to be able to solve their problem in as few visits as you possibly can. And the only way you can do that is to be equipped with the types of answers to questions that they are going to ask. And to have that with you all places, all times, in any situations. Well, nobody can tell that story better for us than our customers. So we'll end our presentation with this little 1 minute clip.
When I first saw 4DSales, the word that came to mind was wow. Truly, it was like the pages were jumping off of the screen.
You instantly can go to a solution for a client or prospect. That's the moment of truth. That's what makes this application so valuable.
It has brought a level of professionalism into meetings that we did not have in the past.
It truly does differentiate our company to our suppliers and to our clients.
When we first got 4D, we had a guy go to Woodward, and he sold a $250,000 job that first time using 4DSales. You know, and he had had a tutorial in it of about 5 minutes.
We actually loaded up the pilot with some skeptics. And what's been amazing is those people have came back and made quotes like, you know, we know that the reason we got this business was because of 4DSales. We are convinced that we otherwise would not have gotten the business.
It's 4DSales, designed by salespeople for salespeople for one reason, to amplify their abilities when they're in front of a customer. Thank you all.
So now we're going to get into the Q&A, and since we're working with one mic, if you don't mind repeating the question that the audience member is giving, and then also it helps if you guys speak up so that the audience can also hear as well.
Okay, thank you.
The first question is David.
Yes, sir? The question was, how is a salesperson and the customer interacting against the iPad? Oddly enough, it behaves a lot of different ways. Sometimes the rep just passes the iPad to them, and it's remarkable how a client will just start moving around because how intuitive it is. Sometimes we'll hook it up and present in a big screen, but the idea is it creates a triangulation so that the rep and the person buying actually now are in communication with this third object. So it allows for a conversation to take place, and this becomes an information source. On the implementation, I'm going to get a little ahead of myself with the release that we've got coming out on the application here within probably 45 to 60 days. Some of the web app type things, some augmented reality type things are going to be included, and that too is going to change how that interaction takes place. Did I answer your question? No, it is for that face-to-face or an engaged environment. Not designed to be remote. It is designed to be engaged in the moment. Next question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Doug Collins. It just expands the presentation material that we may have used 20 or 30 years ago. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, the question was, does it expand presentation material that you may have used 20 or 30 years ago? I would hope that the presentation material may be a little bit more current than that, but right.
Building that relationship. And you're expanding that experience, enhancing that experience somehow with some material. You haven't shown me. You show me some people that say, boy, this really, really works, but you haven't passed that experience to me.
Okay.
As a salesperson, I'm not knowing how David can use this in that setting. That's all.
Okay. I'm going to start with this one piece, then I'll have Mike continue with this. One of the things that you all hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. One of the things that we absolutely see from every one of our customers is 80% of all material, marketing material, is never used. Because reps can't get access to it, it's not current, it's hidden in a shelf somewhere, and it was produced for a specific purpose with an outcome in mind. One item that happens is it creates a consolidation of all of that, and it allows then your reps to have access to every piece of content that you would ever need. So that's one particular piece, Mike. I'm sorry.
So let me ask you, if you don't mind me asking you a question, are you in sales?
Yeah.
How many other people here are in sales, selling a product? How many of you have had a sales call go exactly the way you expected it to, right down the line? You're awesome. I've been at it 30 years, and they hardly ever go the way I expected. That's not necessarily bad. It can be a good thing because they start to divulge additional pains they have, additional things they need. 4DSales allows you to go down any angle that you want to go down. So, for instance, when we were in there earlier, you saw us go to 2 or 3 different categories. Probably wasn't that obvious, but as you flip through these things, you can tap on something. You can be having a conversation about it. If they ask a question, all you have to do is go to another category, pull up something, talk about it there, go right back to where you were, and you're right where you left off. So it gives you the ability to chase those rabbits. So it makes that sales call a lot more impactful. Brian talked about we used to try and, the big deal was get the next meeting. We're trying to close them now. So this allows you to have all of that material in a very elegant way to go from one thing to the next where it doesn't disrupt things, and that's the power of it. Plus the ability to interleave all these different kinds of content. There's nothing I've ever seen that allows you to do, you can put a video in PowerPoint, but it's a struggle. And you can't put putting a website and putting, as Brian mentioned, augmented reality, being able to see a 3D model of a product. There's just not anything that allows you to do that. So we're making it more impactful and giving you all of the information. Let me go to somebody else and they'll come back. Go ahead. It's an app. You saw it. Yeah, you saw it on the iPad. There's one for Windows 8 as well.
format that you can leave it behind, say something to them, and so they'll have their presentation.
Yeah, so you can email anything and everything. So there's a little email icon that allows you to attach those things, whether it's video or website or whatever you want to see.
So for example, let's say that you wanted to see this particular slide. Can you see down in your far right-hand corner the little envelope that's there? I'm sorry, I'm going right-handed side. It's on the left here. Okay, so I'm touching that, and it has selected that particular document. And let's say I wanted that this as well. You see the number 2 there at the bottom that has built up. I now can compose that email and send that then directly over to the customer. So whether it's a catalog, whether it's a video, whether it is a sales sheet, whether it's a promotional piece, you have the capacity then to immediately put that in the hands of your customers. Yes, sir?
Charles, Christian Side Administration. Curious, how do you have to have a particular format to pull all this information in, or does it pull all formats?
It pulls all formats that Apple supports, and the Windows 8 does the similar type thing. So, and right now we're pulling all of that in from Dropbox. So folks will, are you all familiar with Dropbox or have used it? So content will be laid out in Dropbox, and then we'll pull that in that way.
A little context to that, or a little more detail. So, to be very specific, this iPad version you're seeing right here will bring in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, PDFs, Keynote, numbers, pages, several different video formats, several different audio formats, and several different image formats.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, and websites.
Oh, yeah, and websites. The question was, neat product, but how are you going to distribute this particular product? How are you going to make people aware of it, and how are you going to sell it? Is that a fair summary of your question? The answer is a lot of different ways. And again, as an entrepreneur, and many of you all deal with this, you have X amount of capital and X amount of resources in order to, one, build the product, and the second, to distribute. We're distributing it now in 3 ways. First, we've hired a series of salespeople, so they're employees of ours. And then clearly Mike, Doug, and I, as founders, are out selling all the time. But we've hired. Second, we've engaged in partnerships with a number of different companies. One that has been really interesting for us are companies that are sales trainers or consultants. And this allows them to augment the offerings that they have to their customers. The third has been a series of companies that have product sets that are complementary to ours. So, for example, we've had a handful of conversations with some smaller CRM companies, customer relationship managed companies. We've had some discussions with companies that do measurements against marketing usage type. And so we've actually entered into partnerships. We're not sure at this stage which one of those is going to be the most effective. But we do know that hiring someone has a very significant fixed cost. Partnerships are all variable, which are performance-based. So the answer to your question is we're in the process of all 3, and we've had successes in all 3, and we've hit dead ends in all 3. Did I answer your question? Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. The question is, has the product done better in selling a product or a service? And the answer is it's been mixed. Our biggest areas of success in the early stages were with products, primarily with distribution companies, material handling companies. We're doing a lot with Yale Distribution, the forklift folks. They have hundreds of products, or in oil field supply, hundreds of products where they're a distributor for. And that has worked extraordinarily well. Big catalogs, lots of videos of how to use. We are now involved in services quite a bit. And what we're finding with that is more of a mixed bag. And it has less to do with the product, the service that they're selling, and more in a change in behavior in how that service rep sells their service. And that's probably the best answer I can give you. The jury is out. We're very involved with nonprofits. So for example, you saw Junior Achievement of Oklahoma. We've actually given the product to 25 cities now around the country for Junior Achievement. They're a nonprofit where they're trying to raise both awareness, money, and volunteers to teach financial literacy. Those types of services, this has worked extraordinary. Insurance companies, we've got a couple of financial brokers that we're doing some work, real estate, and so the jury's still out on that so far. Yes, sir.
It seems like it's a really cool presentation tool to draw in information and be able to flip and send out information and things like that. How interactive can it be with the client if I have a question that's not involved in the presentation you already have built? So I throw a rabbit at you to chase. How can you pivot from that and show me where I want to go?
The question was, it looks like it's great for a presentation. How quickly can you pivot? And I may have Mike pull up an example of that, but I'll give an example. Again, I talked about the Yale Distributors, Medley Materials is the company. They have hundreds, if not thousands, of different products. And it was, they have a story, and I don't know if we have the quote with us, but they were in a presentation. Finally, the CEO or the president of the company they were selling to said, just give me that thing. I'll find what I want. And he just slid it over. And the president just started scrolling through and found then what he was interested in. We have hey, Mike, do the search function just real quick. One of the things that is in the product is we have this search function, and you'll just type something up in the search, and it will go directly then to where that is. And it allows then for a rep to have great flexibility on their feet to do exactly what you just described. Yes, sir? The question was, what's our revenue model? We charge, up until this point in time, we charged a license fee. It was a little over $1,000 a user. And the way we justified it was this. When we're talking with the owner of a company, we asked this question. If your sales reps had this application, can you see them getting one incremental sale per year? And the answer is always yes. The second question is, tell me then, what is the gross profit you get off of that one incremental sale? And it's always more than what it was. And then that was the justification. We are moving and will be moving, again, within the next probably 60 to 90 days to a subscription-based model where per user per month is $40. And so it's, you want to use it, just keep on using it. You don't, turn it off. Does that answer your question? Okay. Other questions before we get the proverbial last question of what can we do for you and vice versa?
Anyone have one last question? No. All right.
We had, oh, okay.
All right. So, Mr. Carpenter, what is the one thing that us as a community can help you with, and that we can leave with today to make an impact for you?
I think there are actually two things, and I want to come back to that very first thing. I want you to leave here with a mindset, for those of you who are entrepreneurs here, to use 1 Million Cups passport program and go out to other cities. that's something I want you all to take away with, because it's been very, very helpful for us. What you can do for us is much like what you see from a lot of others. If you think what we have is cool, introduce us to someone you think this could make a difference for. If you believe that what you do might be a good revenue source for you to be offering this to your clients, please let us know about that. And we get so excited where we can be a contributor to other entrepreneurs on a go-forward basis. Thank you again for your hospitality. We appreciate it.